Hello, everybody. I am Frank Data Di Lorenzo. Super excited to welcome you to another edition of QuickLaunch Live. Again, we spend 15 minutes just sharing tips, tricks, awareness, kind of give you food for thought about your data driven initiatives and how to become data driven. So, anything around Power BI, Excel, data modeling, what's the value? Keep in mind, if you go to our Preferred Strategies company page, all these recordings are out there on demand. You can watch them whenever you like. So, if you're with us today, please put questions in the comments. Morning, LinkedIn user out there. If you are watching and you don't have any questions, just take a second to tell us where you're watching from, because it'd be great to know. So I want to get right to it because we are honored to have a great guest speaker with us today. Good morning from Houston. Love it. And this gentleman has gone through an implementation and implemented Power BI and is, I think, a really good story around their strategy and the why. So without further ado, our guest speaker hails from Indianapolis, and he's an attorney by training, having graduated from the Pepperdine School of Law, spent the first 15 years of his career in professional motorsports. Super cool. Starting out as general counsel to what is now known as the IndyCar Series, he made his way through various legal, business, and operational roles before becoming president of the Sports Car Vintage Racing Association. Also very cool. Following his motorsports journey, Matt shifted gears, I like that, to the utility infrastructure industry with Electricom, where he applies his unique problem solving approach to crafting data analytics solutions for his company. So without further ado, let's bring on the show Mr. Matt Breeden. Welcome, Matt. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Frank. Thanks a lot for having me. Really appreciate it.
I love that you're with us, and I guess being around motor car racing wasn't adrenaline filling enough, so you decided to really up the ante and jump into data, huh?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Full
All right.
throttle.
Well, Matt, again, I really do want to thank you for taking the time. We all know how busy you are. Wow, we've got folks from Clovis, California, Houston, Orlando, Florida. This is great. Thanks everybody for being out there. Um, So, Matt, we can't cover a lot in 15 minutes, but one thing I think the audience would love to hear is your. I love this. I'm going to share this. This is one of the comments we got. Attorney, race car driver, data analyst. I know you weren't actually the race car driver, but
Not a race car driver. No.
but that's still really cool. We got someone from Austin. That's great. So, Matt, one of the things to start us off, I'm kind of curious, what put you on the road to want to become data driven? What started this in the first place?
Sure. So Electricom, going way back, Electricom's 60-year-old company. We started out doing copper phone lines and a little bit of power, and now we're doing fiber optic infrastructure and as well as power infrastructure. And we were a small company based in Indiana. As we started to grow, really about 10 years ago. We moved we're in about 20 states at this point. So we realized that that managing from the centralized location, having relationships with all of our different partners, throughout the country, while the boots on the ground knew everything that was going on, it was really, really difficult for us in a central office to understand really what was happening within the company. So 3 years ago when I started, we just gotten done with a consulting firm that had delivered some Excel dashboards. They were static views using essentially data dumps out of our various systems, and they worked. It worked really well, and it gave us a nice starting point for views with respect to our data. And from there, I kind of took over, running that part of the business, and realized pretty quickly that the way that we were bringing this data together was inefficient. It wasn't live. It wasn't malleable because it was all static, and it was really difficult to be actionable. So I started looking around. How can we solve this problem? And of course, there's a million solutions out there, whether you're using Power BI or some other platform. And then I started to look in house. Do we have the ability to implement something like this? And quickly realized that this was going to become an awfully large undertaking. But I knew it was something that we really needed to do. So
you try to build it in house, Matt? Is that what you looked at when you say do it in house, build a data model type, or what were you thinking?
Well, that was the concept, was because I'm not a data analyst. I'm an attorney. So I'm just thinking, how do we solve this problem? So at first I'm thinking, do we have resources internally to do it? Is there a way that we can take what we have in Excel and just, all of a sudden put this into, some more dynamic interface? Quickly realized that that's probably not the way to go if we really want this to have longevity and be able to develop. And that was really what kind of kickstarted the journey.
Excellent, man. I appreciate it. And then you decided Power BI was the tool of choice, right?
We didn't really, from the outset, it wasn't necessarily that Power BI had to be the solution. It could be really any data analytics tool. We came to the conclusion that Power BI was probably the solution because we're a Microsoft company. Pretty much everything we have is Microsoft, so we felt like it'd probably be easiest. But really, it came down to, we determined that this isn't something we could do in-house, and we needed to find a third party that could help us and understood our data. And we're based in Vista. All of our ERP system is Vista. We use some other systems for production tracking and things of that nature. But when we got into the Vista side, we realized, okay, whoever we partner with has to have significant experience with the data in Vista, but then can also translate that into whether it's Power BI or some other format. We knew that was going to be the critical link.
I appreciate that, Matt, because you kind of answered one of my questions. I was going to ask how important you felt your partner's knowledge of your ERP would be to this initiative. So you kind of addressed that. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, that was critical from the outset. We knew that whatever partner came in was not necessarily going to know our specific data and the specific ways that we use Vista, but at least they would have an understanding of the general way that it operates and how the various tables and data systems are connecting together.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. And when you started out on this, what were you envisioning success would look like? What was the outcome that we were expecting, I guess?
So I think that the most basic piece is we wanted a set of financials that were, we were able to access in nearly real time. I mean, I think that was the basic side of it. But then there was also from the production side, so from the operations side, we wanted to be able to replicate the reporting that we were doing to the field on a weekly basis and a monthly basis. We wanted to get that into a real-time framework and something that also was more malleable, something that was dynamic, where they could click through links, or they could they could look at their specific jobs, but then they could also look at their specific department, and then they could look at their division, and they could look at the same metrics at each of those levels, all the way down to the specific phase on their job. So that was, in my mind, that's what success looked like.
Yeah, when I'm hearing a couple things, so to summarize, some drill down capabilities, near real time, be able to slice and dice or malleable data, and it sounds like you hit those marks. So anything else you would mention there?
I think that one of the things that we saw was that we have so much data.
Yes.
And it was relatively clean data, but being able to access it and use it together was incredibly challenging. I mean, you've got things from, your operations, you got your hours and your footage and your equipment usage and maintenance on that equipment. But then you've got like GPS data for your trucks. You've got safety data. You've got training data. Then you've got material and the inventory side of it. And that's a lot of different, data sources, but there are common denominators there, and it can all be tied together. But how do you do that?
Yes. That's the secret sauce, as I like to call it. We talked about this, where if the analogy, the iceberg above the water, you just see the tip. And I think that's the fun part. That's playing with the tools, creating content. But what's under the water, the bulk of it is the harder part, the infrastructure to make all this go, right? And the transformed data. And speaking of transformed data, Matt, the other topic I wanted to touch on is Viewpoint Vista. You alluded to that. That's your core ERP, so that's the foundation. What about data living elsewhere? Any other data sources?
Yeah, so we use a platform for our production tracking and hours tracking called B2W, Build to Win. So that's a separate system. We also have an LMS system for our training through Cornerstone, which is completely separate. We have a GPS system through a company called Geotab that's completely separate. So it's how do we bring all these things together?
Yeah. So having all that data kind of transformed into a reporting spot allows you to get that, I guess, 360-degree view, if you will.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's kind of where we are right now is, we've got the Vista piece all on board. And right now we're working to bring in the B2W piece. That's the next kind of the next critical piece.
One other thing I'm thinking about, because a lot of clients, I worked with Vista many years, as you know, live in Excel quite often, probably more than we'd like them to, siloed data and the like. How does Excel play in this data-driven journey for you?
Yeah, so we're definitely using Excel. So we found that it's been really helpful to be able to link back to our data model when we're looking at doing forecasting into the future. So we're able to pull in, our budget as well as our actuals through, year to date. And then we're able to manually plug into those spreadsheets the forecast for the rest of the year and then do a roll up within Excel. So being able to pull that data from the data model has really been helpful. We had tools in the past that could do it. I think that being able to do it through the data model, particularly with the calendar-based system that's in there, has made that significantly easier.
Excellent, excellent. And how important is training to this adoption? Where did that fit in?
So that was, I think it's critical. I mean, if people don't know how to use the system, they're not going to use it. And I think that your team did a great job, kind of giving us an initial understanding of how Power BI works. So that was, how do you move from this screen to another screen? How does the calendar system, the slicers, the filters, how do those things work? So that was critical. But yeah. I think the next step was, making sure that in-house we're training all of our folks on how our data how our data works, how our reports work, how they can look at an old report that they had and where the same information is within Power BI and how much more dynamic it is. When you can show that to a director or a VP, at that point they're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, that's great.
I get it.
That's great. Hey, and Matt, I know 15 minutes goes by quickly. We only have a few minutes. And if we go a minute over to this time, I am not going to mind at all. I doubt our audience will mind. But sure. I think you were going to give us a sneak peek at some example of creation you've actually built with all this, right?
Yeah, I do have one of those. Thanks for reminding me, Frank.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, thanks. So this is, I'm not going to go through what the details on the report, but it's just
that's your data. We want to respect that. I understand that.
Yeah, it's essentially what I wanted to show is that this is a report that I built 2 weeks after our data model was implemented, and it took me hour and a half, 2 hours after we had all the measures created. I don't have any background in Power BI, but it is pretty intuitive and straightforward. And it's one of those reports that I'll tell you what, we look at from the top of our company all the way down to our construction managers on a daily basis. And it gives us a bunch of KPIs, on the health of our business,
Matt, it looks like you're a Power BI pro now, and I like the slices on the top. I see the time slicer. You got the departments, looks like concatenated job and name. That's nice. Customer, very nice, Matt. Very, very good. Very good work. And only a few weeks and a few hours, a few weeks in and a few hours to build. That is very impressive. And do you deploy this as an app? If you go back a screen, is this all in one app?
It is.
And if you can't, don't worry about it. I mean, I know. I appreciate you sharing anything. So,
see if it'll let me go back. It is in an app. Yes, here we go.
Yeah. Wow, the audience impressed. 2 weeks after implemented, only 2 hours. Yes, very good.
It is. Yeah. So it's within an app. We've got all of our other app sections, our GL, our AP, AR, et cetera. Over on the left side as well.
That's nice because you deploy that. You deploy the app by role, I suspect, and then you can kind of give them the room to maneuver flexibility wise, but within their role sandbox kind of.
Yeah, you can see across the top, we've got our executive supply chain and operations. We've got the audiences within the app. So yes, we're doing it that way. We're also using some row-based security to slice and dice as well.
To the row-based security, I'm just curious, were you able to replicate if you had any security in Vista?
We did not specifically replicate what we had in Vista for several reasons, but no, that wasn't necessarily the goal.
Okay, but you were able to build it in the model directly.
Yeah,
nice. Well, very impressive looking, and I kind of like how you have the menu laid out on the left as well. So it's really heartening to see the progress. You know, a few weeks. How long was the process from when you started to where you were able to start creating this?
So from when we engaged with you to when we put this out?
From the day you started with us, implemented the model, you know, the infrastructure to.
Yeah. So after everything was tested and implemented, you know, like I said, we built this within 2 weeks. This was one of the first things we did was this report. It was already in my head that we needed this view.
That's nice. And one question I see out there, and I think I'll let you answer it, Matt. I think I know it. Can you link this data model in Excel? And I think that's what you're describing. So probably a yes, but I want to hear you tell them that.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything that we can see in Power BI, we can also see in Excel. All those measures are available.
Matt, this is tremendous. I wish I had an hour and 15 minutes, but we don't. And I do want to respect your time and our audience time. So I'm going to take this off for a moment so we can wrap up. But Matt, I expect we may have questions from folks after the fact. Remember, everybody out there, this will be on our site, LinkedIn page. You can watch it anytime. But Matt, would you be all right if someone has questions? Maybe they can reach out to me and I'll let you know. Or
yeah, absolutely. That'd be wonderful. Happy to answer questions.
Such a good guy. Hey, everybody, if we could virtually clap, let's give it up for Matt Breeden. Matt, phenomenal job. Love your bio. Love seeing what you're doing with the data model. And thanks for spending a little bit of time to share your journey with us.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Frank.
Everybody out there, have a great day. Thanks again, Matt. You all take care.